some viewers might think, oh, she's making that up. Oh, she's got a vivid imagination. And that's fine. But there's imagining things and then feeling things so deeply that you cry from pure happiness for days within. You're so secure with these people that you're sensing, and you feel so at one with yourself and so whole. You can't make that up. That's a feeling that you're sharing with these people.
Welcome to Soul Explorers with your hosts, Gary Langley and Sally Taylor. Welcome to Soul Explorers. We're your host, Sally Taylor. My name is Gary Langley. Today we have Victoria Beaumont with us. Victoria had a spiritually transformative experience, which I think was an out-of-body experience, and she's going to talk to us about that and the effects it's had on her life. Victoria, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It just brings me pure joy to share stuff like this because I think it really helps many people. I don't think we realize just how much we have similar experiences.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
we're so thrilled that you were willing to join us
Thank you.
here on our little podcast to share your story. So with that said, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then roll into how this experience occurred for you.
Well, this experience I had was, I think it was around the year 2012, maybe 2011. But before that, I was living a very kind of normal life in central London. But before that, I grew up religious, in a very religious family. I stopped going to church when I was just when I went to university. I thought, wow, I don't have to go to church now. Every Sunday I can do whatever I want. And it was around that time when I started reading quite spiritual books based on true stories of people encountering angels. I would say the most groundbreaking, life-changing books I read were the Neil Donald Walsh books, The Conversations with God. Because when you grow up thinking God is a certain thing or a person, or you have certain feelings about religion and God and your place on earth, books like that can be extremely life-changing. And it was, and that really kind of started the journey of questioning life, reality. Why am I here? And there was, a good 10 years or so of delving in, joining spiritual circles in London, meeting like-minded people that wanted to question things, and why are we here? What's our purpose and stuff? And many of the books I read were true stories about people encountering angels and other beings, that were there to help them, and they just had positive things to say about them. And I was just addicted to these books. But growing up, one of my favorite books randomly as a very young child was a Christian children's Bible. It was a children's Bible, and it had these amazing paintings and drawings in them. And as a kid, I was just not interested in the words. I just wanted to look at the pictures. And these pictures were really amazing paintings. I don't know who did them, but it was paintings of angels coming down stairwells, and the cloud, the light at the top of the stairs, and people getting up from the graves looking so happy and holding hands with angels and stuff. And I don't know why, but as a young kid, this really was fascinating, and I couldn't help but feel, this looks right. This feels right. This is important. Keep looking at these pictures. So as a young age, I was very inquisitive of other beings. And so I guess it was natural that, hitting my 20s, I started getting very spiritual, started questioning the nature of reality. And so I started growing this urge and need and want to know if I had a guardian angel or if there are angels looking after me. And it grew from, you know, wishful thinking of, oh, you're sat in church and there's got to be some angels looking after us here. Or I sang in church choirs and I thought, oh, maybe angels are singing with us or something. And it got to the point where I was going through some, I don't know, just difficult relationship type times in London. And I was living on my own. And there were some nights where I would fall asleep crying my eyes out, wanting proof, like lying in my bed and just holding my hand out in my bed and just imagining that an angel's holding my hand. You know, I wanted to have a conversation with whoever it was that I just felt someone was looking after me, you know? And so I would just cry my yeah, I'd cry myself to sleep basically, just like, where if you're here, show me. I know you're here. I love you and thank you for loving me. And I know there's important things I need to know about existence of life, me, why am I here, you know? So I guess emotionally I was getting quite desperate really. Um, you know, I was loving my life at the same time though. Loving, you know, singing for a living. I had a great group of friends. I loved London life. I loved where I was living. You know, I had a happy life and I'm grateful for that. But anyway, straight to this experience. I was having a normal dream and I cannot remember what that normal dream was, but it must have been very boring and mundane. And in a split second, it was the strongest change of scenery ever. It was like someone changed the reel of the film and the scene just dropped down. Like my old dream was coming down here and this new thing was coming here. This new thing was space. Space just came down like this in my vision. I didn't have any sensations in my body, no warning that this was going to happen. Just the scene changed and suddenly I was in space and I wasn't really aware of my body. It was just my awareness was looking at space and it was so real. It was so alive and it wasn't dark. This is when I realized that, oh my gosh, space is not this black void. It's full of all the colors. I can see all these stars and, you know, clouds of just rich colors of the rainbow, you know, different hues. And within seconds of me going, oh my gosh, I'm in space, this being comes to me from this angle, glowing white hair, so long. I couldn't see, it was definitely a she. If it was a man, very, very feminine, but it was definitely a female. She was glowing from her skin, so much so that I could only really make out her eyes. And her eyes were sparkling blue, like the blue, just more alive than the blue sky, just so blue. And her smile was so ecstatic, so wide, so genuinely happy. She came flying to me with her arm out, like, come hold my hand, you know? And she was floating to a point where she was coming down at me, but I guess she was in white robe type. Her body wasn't a thing. It was more like she was floating. I knew she had a body, but it was all her hair glowing white. Her skin was emanating white. Everything was emanating white. So I couldn't really make out her nose, but it was like her beautiful eyes. And she takes my hand, and the way she was smiling at me, the feeling I got instantly was so strong. It took me back. Her excitement for seeing me, suddenly, it's almost like she was like, oh my gosh, you're here. Oh, you made it. I was so, so purely happy. I didn't know anyone could be so happy to see you. That took me back. Like, why are you so happy to see me? Who are you? So ecstatically happy to see me. And in that moment of seeing her, I also got this knowing of, whoa, like you have known me since the seed of me. You have known me from the beginning of me. Like that's beyond anything any time I can comprehend. It was so big. And so in that split second of me thinking all this, I was thinking, well, you seem to be more than a guardian angel. You don't seem to be like I had my best friend who passed away when I was 20. She didn't look like my best friend that died. She didn't even look like an angelic version of her. She seemed like an entity of her own, um, more than an angel, so wise, all-knowing, but had known me from the beginning of time. So I was getting this download in the split second going, wow, okay, hold my hand. And so she's to the left of me, and with that, she's so happy to be with me. My goodness. I'm holding her hand, and we just go straight like the the speed of light and I into space. And in this moment, all the stuff, like, it's just so fast. I think my human conscious mind was thinking, oh my gosh, I've never experienced speed this much. And I actually felt my skin I felt the weight in my skin go, ugh. Like, on a roller coaster or whatever. And so we were flying through space. And then we just stop. And again, we're in space. And this time, the hues I'm seeing of the colors are like pinky, purpley, peachy pinks, and darker purples. And it's all stars, very alive. I couldn't see her anymore, but I just knew she was there. I didn't even look to see if she was there. I was just like, whoa, where now am I? And I started hearing people's voices, like really, really just normal voices, just normal conversations. And I started seeing like white, ghostly kind of outlines, not ghosts, but like just normal people. But I can only see their white outline. And they were just walking past me, like down here, past here, they're in the distance. And as I was seeing these people walk past me, the little white outlines, I was listening to their conversations. And these people, it really struck me because I could see they were from all timelines. There were people wearing very old fashion, like the corset dresses and the wigs, back in like Mozart, Beethoven days, those sort of times. People from years back then, between then and now. And what struck me was that their conversations were so like they were annoyed by the day, or they were chit-chatting, gossiping about, oh, that person said this, and oh, you wouldn't believe what Jane said the other day, da 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 da. I can't remember people's accents, but I guess because I was living in England at the time, everyone's English. I was just hearing English, right? But these people were from all walks of life, and this was incredible. And in this moment of witnessing all of this, I understood that, okay, time and space clearly doesn't exist. I was just instilled with this knowing by observing this. Time and space doesn't exist. Oh my gosh. All these people are existing now with me now. There's no separation. And it's amazing because people back then were having the most silly conversations that your neighbor probably has with their friend at the end of the day of work, or just nitpicking about their lives. And I remember thinking, gosh, it's so dramatized. People so serious. It's another thing that I remember thinking, why are they so serious? They don't need to be so annoyed by their life. It's so simple. Time and space doesn't exist. It was a lot to take in.
Let me ask you really quickly. So did you feel like you were looking sort of into different timelines or different, and
I
were
guess
you seeing people from multiple timelines at the same time? Or were you looking at everybody from the era of Beethoven and then another vision of people from maybe a
there
more recent time frame?
I guess imagine it as if you were in a haze, a purple haze, and there are stars everywhere. And everyone that you're seeing is from various timelines. I can just see by the way they talk, the way they are addressing. And they were walking by me, like, say, like back in the Mozart Beethoven days, walking past me with those ornate dresses. But then also right behind them is someone in our era or from the 70s. All together in this vision, this experience of people hearing people talking. Um,
So what you
so yeah,
realized, I think, is that time is kind of an illusion.
massively so. And understanding that is as simple as breathing. I even thought that this is more easy than breathing. This is just fact. Oh my goodness, it's so easy. Oh, don't worry. Like life can be so easy, but we love to dramatize it. We love to nitpick and gossip and complain about how serious our reality is. But actually, when you're outside of it, you can see how it's just so easy if you want it to be.
Right.
And I guess where I was in this hue of pinks and purples and seeing and hearing these people, it felt so easy just being outside of it and observing it.
Mhm.
Um,
I want to
yeah.
ask you real quickly, the being, the angel, we'll call her,
Yeah.
the higher being, definitely. Was she communicating with you? And was it like telepathic communication? You said you got these downloads. So did you feel that was her way of explaining to you what was transpiring?
I felt like she wasn't, she didn't have the need to talk to me. There wasn't this sense of, oh, we're being telepathic. It was more like I got downloads from the feeling I got from seeing her. It was just a feeling of the knowings of, oh, you've known me for a very long time. You're obviously very happy to see me. There were no telepathic words needed. And I think what I was witnessing when I just knew she was there and she just let me observe, that was me understanding things from me observing things. There was no conversation. And it's fascinating though, because you hear about other people's experiences where they do have that telepathic communication. But even though I didn't quite have that, I understand how you would have that.
Mhm.
Because her eyes just being so happy to see me, her excitement was alone a huge download.
You mentioned a really critical thing. You asked for this experience. You were actually
I,
seeking, and this is something
yes.
that's come up a lot, is, people want to communicate with those that have passed on, their loved ones, but you have to ask. They're not just gonna show up necessarily. We have to ask for these experiences and be open to them. Would you say that the asking was a big part
I
of it?
absolutely agree. Because if some part of you hadn't asked, I think there is no way that they would allow you to be scared by something sudden and not called for.
Mhm.
They can only come to you if they fully feel you are emotionally ready, because it has to be of service and it has to be for your highest good. And if it's something they genuinely feel that you could handle, you will always experience something that I think you can really handle, even if it's just like mind blowing and the next day you're just completely changed. There's a part of you that's positively changed from it, and they knew that you probably would be. Otherwise, I don't think it would have happened. I mean, obviously, we can have nightmares and things like that. That's the lower realm stuff. That's a whole nother conversation. But I think it happened, yes, because I asked. And but even so, it happened in a way that was way more real and more amazing than I could ever have wished for. And I have to say, maybe your viewers would, some of them would understand this, but when you grow up being a Christian and you have these thoughts of angels, the thought of one coming to you in your bedroom at night, it's actually really scary. So even though I was like asking to see my guardian angel, part of me was actually quite scared of having this vision or suddenly this being showing itself in my bedroom. I think a part of me would freak out if it happened like that. And they would know that. They
Yeah.
would know the perfect way in which they could come and say hi.
Our religions, unfortunately, so many of them teach a level of fear.
I do.
You know,
Yes.
I've always, marveled at the statement, fear God. Why? That
Mm.
there should be no fear there. So
Yes, you can let in a lot of fear if you believe that you should feel
right,
it or experience it. And I think when you grow up in a society where it's based on Christianity or any religion where they bring in fear into the religion, then you believe that that's the only way you should live your life. Be
right.
fearful. And
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
halts you. Yeah, it clamps up your creative energy as a human.
It
It
does.
stops you in your path. So it's nice to not live in that as much.
So go on ahead and tell us. We've kind of left off in your story where
Oh,
you were seeing all these individuals. I would love to hear how this all resolves itself. What
well,
happened beyond that?
well, it in that moment of seeing all that stuff, I think I was starting to feel that maybe I might have died, or this is a bit too much, or I think I've gone too far away. It was just a very split second. Oh, this is a lot. This isn't normal. And I think with that, I just woke up. I it was a very quick, oh, boom, I'm awake, I'm in my bed. But I do remember just lying there thinking, oh my gosh. And I don't think it was really until days, weeks, months afterwards that I understood the depths of which that actually was starting to change me. And when you have experience like that, and you just know that these beings or this being exists, and they were so happy to see you and they love you more than you could ever experience love, then you just go about your life with so much less fear. You just know that you're being looked after. And so with that comes this gentle, all-knowing peace that you're okay in your life now. And so this is how I started feeling beautifully gradually after this whole experience. I tried to paint the girl, the woman I saw. I chucked the painting, that was useless. So I drew her instead. And so I have that drawing to show if you guys would like to see.
We'd love
Um,
it.
yeah. Do you want to see it now?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I'll see if it can yeah, I don't want it to be blurry for you guys. Let's have a look. So it might reflect my screen, so apologies if so. But
Oh,
this is
that's right.
her.
But there she is. Oh, yeah. Look at those eyes. Oh, my goodness. And the smile. Beautiful.
And her eyes were bright blue. Oh, sorry, the screen.
That's
But
okay. That's me in there.
yeah, yeah. But her hair was so long and glowing white. Like every thread of her hair was just alive with the whitest light. So I had to
Tell-
draw her. I mean, I tried my best. She looks a little bit like a cartoon, I guess, because she was more than human. Her eyes were bigger than our eyes. Hers, yeah, I guess that was the only difference. Her eyes were just bigger than our eyes, and they were slightly little bit more up. Um, to this day, I don't know who she was. And I think I just wasn't meant to know.
Well, Victoria, I have actually had a very similar, although maybe somewhat more brief experience to what you are describing with
Oh
an
my gosh.
individual. Yeah. And I'm getting chills as I'm sitting here thinking
I
about it, talking
love
about it. But
that.
I shifted into lucidity
Yeah.
during the night one night and
Mhm.
found myself standing in front of a very tall, uh, brightly lit, white haired individual in a white robe. Mine was more androgynous, though, more masculine, perhaps than feminine, but slightly androgynous, bright blue eyes. And for me, there was this rainbow aura emanating from this
Wow.
individual. And
Wow.
I knew in the moment that I was being instructed in some way. But becoming lucid was so overwhelming. The love that I was feeling from this individual and sort of the gift of the information that was somehow being given to me was just overwhelming. And that huge emotion popped me out. I was then suddenly
Ah,
wide
it's so
awake.
much.
Yeah.
What did he speak? Did you see his mouth move?
No,
Was there?
no, no. There was just a knowing that I
Ah,
was being instructed, right? And
okay.
so in a lot of ways, he's
I
very
love that.
similar to this
Really?
young female that you are describing in so many ways. The pale white hair, the
Yeah.
pale, nearly kind of lit from within.
Yes, lit from within, exactly. Did
Yeah,
he have long
yeah.
white hair?
It was white, but in this case, his was maybe shoulder length.
Golden. Did he have
And I
blue
say he,
eyes? Or
yes,
he, she?
yes.
Wow. Were
Like
his
I said,
eyes bigger?
I would
Sorry.
say, generally speaking, yes.
Yeah,
But very human in form as well,
of
you
course.
know.
Hmm.
So, I'm loving sitting here listening to your story
Yeah,
because I think people do have these experiences. I'm
they
always
are.
saying that sharing them is so validating for other people who have experienced something very similar. And the fact that yours was able to extend into sort of travel through space and time for
Yeah.
you is even more exciting. So, in what other ways has it changed the way you exist in the physical world now?
Well, I was able to meditate so much more deeply after that. In fact, I started getting very, very strong knowing images of me coexisting now. I call it my happy place. I've painted it where I'm sat on this field. It's like a clearing on a hill, and the hill goes down, and then there's clouds down there. It's like we're above the earth, and there's like these pine trees and the wood behind, but it's like a clearing, and the grass is like perfect, and it's this high. And I'm always sat there with this guy with blonde hair, blue eyes. He's wearing white linen, rolled up. And him and I just sat there. I swear, when I'm having a bad day, I'm there and we just chat about like my day. Like, help me, please. I'm struggling today. And it's like I'm 10 minutes sat there with him in this hill is my lifetime here. So ever since that experience, I've had this group of angels that I just feel are with me, guides. And when I'm in this, when I take my mind to this clearing where I'm sat on the grass with this other guy, they're always there. I could never see their faces, but there's like, I don't know, 12, 13 of us. Just like, I don't know, playing, throwing a ball. Sometimes we sit in a circle and meditate together, or they've got all their hands on me if I'm asking healing. Um, that all came to me very, very vividly. And that's just this knowing that that's happening as I live this life. So I really don't feel alone. It's very, very comforting. Some viewers might think, oh, she's making that up. Oh, she's got a vivid imagination. And that's fine. But there's imagining things and then feeling things so deeply that you cry from pure happiness for days within. You're so secure with these people that you're sensing, and you feel so at one with yourself and so whole. You can't make that up. That's a feeling that you're sharing with these people, these guides, I don't know. I was also able to do very intuitive writing. So, you know, your notes on your iPhone. If I'm having like a particularly bad time, this was like, you know, 15 years ago, I was maybe having a bad day, or I just went through a breakup, I'd start chatting about my feelings, like, what do you call that? Fluid writing or whatever. I'm just writing words, right? And it would just turn into this wise words, like, don't worry, Tori. I would hear like these, and it would just happen. And suddenly this automatic writing turns into a full-on conversation of pure wisdom coming from beyond me. And I had this whole conversation of wise words, not from me. I swear I would ask the question, the answer would come just as quickly as I'm asking it in my mind. And I would write this down. So I started getting this instant conversations with, I don't know, my guide. It feels like a group of people with one mind. That started happening. My grandmother died. I started hearing her talking to me. I would write down what she was saying to me on my phone. It's always on my phone. Should probably write with a pen more. And I ended up at the day when we scattered my grand's ashes at this beautiful waterfall. I asked my family that we were all standing there in this woodland, can I read out something that I think Gran has told me? And I read it out. And people started crying, obviously, and I started crying. I was reading it out, but it really was Gran's words, and it just came to me one day. So what I can say is that it seems that my connectivity with other beings, guides, even my grandparents that have all passed now, it's a muscle you exercise, really, the whole trusting your intuition and what you're getting. But that really opened up after this whole experience, and I'm so grateful because I'm not afraid of that stuff. I love it. I think it's very helpful. I'm not a medium, I'm not a, you know, a working psychic, but I'm definitely enjoying working on this.
That's
Thank you.
automatic writing, what you're talking
That's
about.
it. Yes. Yes. I was like, what's the phrase?
Yeah. And I would exercise that more. I would sit down, pose a question with a pen
Yeah.
and pen and see what comes. And you may get
Thank you.
a lot more information. And I get what you're saying. I'm not a medium, but I think we all have mediumistic abilities.
I agree.
And I've
Yes.
certainly had clairaudient things happen that
Yeah.
were prophetic and true.
Just knowing. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sally. You had a question.
Only because this has got my wheels turning, and knowing that you're an artist by background, music, and
Thank you.
obviously you draw quite beautifully as well.
Thank you.
I'm curious whether or not you feel like this has become collaborative for you in the other work that you do, like your music or, you know, other art forms that you do, because I know so many artists do talk in terms of having a muse, or, you know, that's their way of talking about inspirational sources that are somehow outside of themselves. Do you utilize it in those ways as well?
Yes, and it seems to be instantaneous thing. It's not like I sit at the piano and ask, "Oh, can you help me write this song?" Oh, actually, I have done that a couple times. But it's not much. But I feel there is this instant ease, this flow, this pathway that is just more wider, more lighter, more instant than ever before when I'm now writing music. And specifically when I feel they know I'm writing music for a certain purpose. There is different types of writing music. You know, I write music for TV and film, you know, that is used for TV and film, and you get royalties for that, and it's wonderful. But you're definitely writing to a brief, you know, be it a pop song in the style of Taylor Swift, or like a trailer type song that's used for, you know, something quite intense. But when I'm writing stuff that is more me, that's when I feel they're smiling more. It's really, really hard to describe. I feel like they're right here. going, now this is a good one. You know, that's when I feel closer to them. And I really try and listen to that, because I think as an artist, if there's anyone else listening to this who is a creative person in any form, there is a lot of pressure to be a certain way, to copy what other people have done because that makes money. But I do feel that extra push to, no, do you. Please, just do you. And it will come easier for you, and you'll probably feel better while you're doing it, you know, writing that song, writing the lyrics, saying what it is that you want to say. You'll actually walk away at the end of the day feeling like, oh, I couldn't have been more me if I tried. And that's really fulfilling. So but that as an artist, that's something you have to practice and be okay with. But it's in those times I feel the flow the most
Yes.
connected. And I am still trying to be more okay with that.
Well, and the fact that you talk about the flow state, I think that's true for so many times when we are really channeling as much as, you know, putting in our own creativity, but we're also pulling in from, again, outside sources, other sources that are there to help and assist. And I think it's great to ask. Gary and I are all about the asking, right? But sometimes it just becomes second nature, I think, for people who work creatively, and they find themselves in that flow state, which I find, because I am an artist by background as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I taught high school art and stuff for a number of years, but for me, that flow state, that creative process is very, very similar to mediumship, to asking
Actually,
for connection in other ways.
yeah, it's a same type of feeling you get. It's again, it's that muscle in your trusting part of the brain. Like,
Yeah.
I recognize this download. This feels like a knowing, or this feels like this is definitely the right direction. You're getting that hint that this feels too good to not do feeling. I'm in the right direction. Yeah, it's very, actually, funnily enough, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I ended up doing a course to exercise the mediumship skills. And on Zoom, it was during COVID. I just wanted to see if I could do this. And we all had to basically do readings for each other. And these were people from all walks of life on Zoom. Yeah, it turns out I do have a little bit of a knack for it. It's nerve-wracking though, you know.
It is, but I agree, it's a muscle, and the more you work
It
it,
is.
the easier it gets. Yeah.
And I think we all have that ability. And I think part of it is believing. And another part of it is watching podcasts and reading books, of hearing other people's journeys with it, and hearing more and more people can get better at it. And we don't have to be so scared of it. And this is why it's so important that you guys have stuff like this going on, you know, that we're talking about this.
Well, this is why I think your story is so important, because I think so many people have experiences that they say, oh, that was just my imagination. They blow it off and don't realize that it's a gift to go through this. And that brings me to a question. Do you feel, because you're very intuitive, I can sense this about you, that the people on the planet are going through a spiritual transformation at this point in time?
Yeah, massively. It's in the air. It's really hard to put into words, but I feel the excitement with all the cells in my body. There's a door opening, a new energetic plane in which we're stepping into. And it's not hard to see though, with many different YouTube channels of people having enlightened conversations, asking really hard, deep questions about our reality, and questioning the governmental stuff, the religious stuff. We're asking questions, and with that, we just become more enlightened. We become stronger. We become more united. we become more intelligent. And in a sense where we can start loving ourselves more, start loving each other more, transforming how our relationships with our family members are. We'll just, with more intelligence, people becoming more kind, more loving to their own bodies. You know, the health industry is definitely picking up the realities of, you know, how you think is what you are, or what you eat is what you are. All that's just the beginnings of it all. And it's just happening in all avenues, and you just see it everywhere. And those that are ready are asking the questions, they're reading the books, they're having conversations like this, they're becoming less scared. And I'm seeing it everywhere. And maybe it's because I'm that myself, so I'm starting to see it, you know, what you are is reflected back to you as well.
I agree with you completely. The world is changing, and people are becoming more spiritually curious,
Yes.
and they're beginning to share their experiences and validate them for other people. And
Yes.
I do think that's the key. So we're so grateful that you're willing to talk about your spiritually transformative experience with
Thank
us.
you. I love talking about it. This is very new for me, because up to this point, I would only tell my best buddies, you know, or I would maybe share it in a spiritual circle that maybe I go to a group meditation or something and I end up talking to someone about it. And even then, I was very shy about sharing it. So I just suddenly had this urge, and it was literally about 3 weeks ago. I had this knowing of, you have to share this now. I was like, oh, I've never shared this with the public. This is scary.
You're out of the spiritual closet.
Yeah, it feels so liberating. Hi, guys.
And the really wonderful thing too is that it doesn't matter whether anybody believes you or not. Those that are meant to hear it, it will ignite something in them. And if it does, you know, one person has an epiphany from something you said,
Yeah,
what a gift.
I agree.
But I think people are beginning to realize that we all have the ability to connect with the other side, to be in contact with our guides, angels, loved ones on the other side. And it's Sally has a little podcast that she does called The Thinning Veil.
Oh, I
And
love that.
I
Great
think that
title.
we use the word veil. It's not really a veil, I don't think, but
It
it
seems like it in these bodies.
It's
in
a
these
metaphor.
bodies,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
human way to we do a lot of things, like even the word afterlife, you know, it's like spirit tells me there's no afterlife.
It's a
There's just
continuing.
life. Yeah, it's just
Yes.
yeah. So we have human terminology to describe the indescribable oftentimes.
Even that can be quite limiting.
Oh, it is. It
Yeah,
is indeed.
I know.
It is indeed.
Wow.
Language doesn't quite get us there, but it is what we have to share our stories with. So we do the best we can with what we've got.
We do. And I think the more that people have these experiences, the more that language won't be needed. It will just be like, oh, you've experienced, it will just be a simple nod. Oh, I get you. Yes, you understand it. Yes.
Exactly. Well, do you have any final messages or thoughts or ideas you'd like to share with our audience before we're done today?
Yes, actually. If should any of your viewers have experiences like this, or they want to have an experience like this and they're curious, or they want to have more experiences, I think just trust that when something like this happens, trust in your heart and your feeling that because it was so positive and it was so pure in the feeling in the moment of it happening, just know that that was for you and for your benefit and for your growth. And it's okay if you feel worried about telling people about it, because chances are people will look at you very confused. They might question the validity of it. They might even say that, you know, that being's not real, or I had that. But I still knew that what I experienced was, for me, it was more real than anything. And just know that when it happens, it was exactly for you.
Yes.
in that moment. And it was for your growth. It was for your benefit. It was for your
Victoria,
benefit.
can you relate to because when you initially have these experiences, you want to tell people,
Yeah.
and people get this, their eyes get glazed over.
Yeah. I've
It's
seen it.
it's the glazed over look, and it's okay.
Yeah,
But
I get it.
we then learn to share it when it's appropriate and let spirit kind of guide us as to when it's appropriate to open up and talk about it with someone, and when it's
Yeah.
better to keep quiet. Uh,
Yeah. I
but
heard I heard a saying that someone said, if you're unsure, just give them 10%.
yeah,
Wait. Wait for that reaction and then assess.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
well, Victoria, it's been a delight talking with you. You are shining that light you experienced on the other side.
Thank
It's
you. I'll
it's
try.
oh, you don't have to try. It's quite palpable talking to you, even on Zoom. So
Oh,
thank you
thank
so
you.
much for joining us, and
Thank you for having me.
continue doing what you're doing. Much love to you.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been
Thank you,
wonderful to
Victoria.
share.
We've enjoyed it. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this content, please hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.